This one's for my The Bible is Inspired friends.
You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Welcome back to Pesky Passages, where your favorite doctrines face serious challenges and we learn to ask better questions along the way. You've probably heard this one before, but have you ever paused to really question it? 2 Timothy 3:16 reads, "All scripture is inspired by God and is useful for teaching, for reproof, for correction, and for training in righteousness." This is the singular verse on which the entire doctrine of inspiration and eventually inerrancy has been built on. One word, one sentence, one theological framework. The word translated inspired is theopneustos, literally God-breathed. It appears only once in the entire Bible, and it's what scholars call, here's your $2 word for the day, hapax legomenon, a word with no other biblical context to help clarify or compare its meaning. What you may not know is that in every other known usage of this word outside of biblical sources, it doesn't actually mean inspired, as in divinely authored. It meant something closer to life-giving, animated, vital, infused with breath. And we've seen this breath before. In Genesis, it's what makes the human more than dust. God exhales into dirt, and the dirt inhales life. Not a claim, not a creed, a supernatural and transformational event. So maybe the author of Timothy wasn't making a claim about how the scripture was written. Maybe they were describing how it functions as something that carries breath, animates life, transforms people. And when you understand it that way, the rest of the verse falls perfectly into place. All scripture is life-giving and useful for teaching, for reproof, for correction, and for training in all righteousness. That's not a statement about literary perfection. It's a vision of communal transformation. One word, written one time, somehow became the foundation of an entire doctrine. But how? Over time, that one poetic word was reinterpreted. By the 2nd and 3rd centuries, church fathers like Origen and Augustine began using theopneustos to support a theory of divine authorship, not just usefulness. A word about breath and vitality was recast as a word about origin and perfection. And that theology wasn't drawn from the verse. It was projected onto it and read back in. What began as a metaphor for life became a mandate for inerrancy, not because the text required it, but because later traditions needed it. In short, the Bible used a word, the church reinterpreted its meaning, and it slowly turned into a full-blown doctrine. Now, as always, you don't have to agree with me, but when you're confronted with new information, you do have to wrestle with it. So I'd love to hear how you answer these questions. Are we letting one poetic word carry the entire weight of a doctrine? If scripture is life-giving, not flawless, how does that change what we expect from it? If the doctrine of inspiration was imported into the text centuries later, what other foundational doctrines have been snuck in that we're unaware of? And are we really prepared to let the Bible be what it is, even if it's not what we're told? Sometimes we inherit beliefs so early, we forget to ask where they come from. But doctrines aren't sacred just because they're old. And if they aren't grounded in the text, maybe it's time to breathe something new into them once again. Come along. You're welcome here.